Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 70 of Build Your Stash and Craft. This week we are going to make a bead roller, and we did make a bead roller a while ago out of some skewers, but this time we're going to make it with cotter keys and polymer clay. And I use cotter keys quite often to roll beads, and I thought it would be really nice if it had a handle on it to make it easier to roll. And so I thought that I would show you how I'm making it. Now I've just taken a piece of polymer clay and I have conditioned it until it should pull apart like this when you condition it. It should be nice and soft and kind of pull apart, and leave little points. It shouldn't be crumbly at all. So I just went ahead and just conditioned this until it got nice and warm, and it doesn't really get super soft, but it's a lot softer than it was when I started. So, and I have my oven preheating to 275 because you do have to bake the polymer clay. And then I have 3 skewers here, and I'm going to cut them about 3 inches long. And I'm doing this as a filler for my polymer clay because I want my handle to be a little bit thicker, and it's hard. You can't cook like super thick polymer clay, at least as far as I know. You have to have some kind of a, I don't know what you call it, but something in the middle. So those are about 3 inches long. I had already marked them, and I am going to just put a touch of tacky glue on them, just in a couple of spots. Just kind of spread that out a little bit, just something to hold them together. Because otherwise I'm afraid they'll just keep moving and moving. So I'm going to do this, and then obviously they should really dry, but hopefully they'll dry up pretty quick, and then just kind of even up both ends. I'm not going to bother sanding them because they'll be on the inside of our polymer clay, so you won't touch the ends where we cut it. But just kind of push those together. Kind of keep them even, and then just set that aside for just a second to let it dry. Okay, and then I decided to use a 3/16 copper cotter key and a 1/8 cotter key. So those are the sizes that I'm going to be using, because we're going to put one on each end so that actually it will roll beads with 2 different size holes. And so we just need one of each. And like I said before, if you have a little local hardware store, you can get them there individually so that you don't buy a whole pack. But these packs were only $49 and $59. Actually, I think both of these packs were $49, and then my pack of 5 30-seconds, which had quite a few, and I believe these were $59. So these are our different sizes. And what it is, and it's probably hard to tell, but one is bigger around than the other. So this is kind of half of your circle, and this is the other half of your circle, but it's the same size as that. So you can see how those are different sizes. So those will give you different size holes. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to worry about rolling this or anything, because I'm going to squish it when I'm done anyways, so that it's not completely smooth. I don't want it completely smooth. And so I'm just kind of squishing it together. And I want it to have texture to it because that'll make it easier to grab. But try and squish it good so that you don't have any air pockets in the middle. And I'm going to do it to about 1/4 inch thick. Maybe it's not even quite that thick, because it tells you to cook it for, let's see here, our instructions are, cook it at 275 degrees, 15 minutes per 1/4 inch. So if I do it about 1/4 inch thick and cook it for 30 minutes, I think that will be plenty of time, because really they're not even touching each other. They'll be on the outside of the skewers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, let's see here, I'll just use my scissors. Just kind of make a line and then hold this up here. But actually I'm going to want my cotter keys in there So I'm going to need to have enough room to cover this hole. So line that up with that, and then put this one over here and put a line. And so what that does is that puts the holes on the inside of my handle. This is going to be a handle. And so I'm going to just cut it in those spots, or I'm just going to rip it actually. Just take that off. And then take it off down here. There we go. Okay. And this doesn't have to be any way totally precise. So I'm going to put this one back here where I had it, and I'm going to push it into the clay. So it's about halfway, because I want that to bake. I want that clay to hold it inside. I don't want it to fold out or to pull out. And then I'm going to push in my skewers right next to that. Push those down a bit. Then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to push that down. I'm going to push it all the way in. And then I'm just going to bring this up and around. And then I'm going to get my, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to get the spreader that we bought to spread our different things. I'm going to unroll this because I do want a straight side here. And I'm going to cut this off straight so that I have a straight edge. And then my skewers came apart, but you really should let those, I'm going to push them back together. I'm going to come over here like this and then cut it right where those two meet. Just like that. And now I'm just going to pinch these edges together to get that to seal up. Straighten this out. Kind of adjust this a little bit to make sure that it's in the center. And then just make it look kind of nice. I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, and then I'm just going to kind of squeeze it with my fingers, my thumb. I want to put the texture in there because I want to be able to just, when I roll it, I don't want it to be really smooth and slip in my hand. So I'm purposefully making dents and bumps. Just like that. And then I'm going to put this in the oven on a piece of parchment paper. You could also, let's see, what do I have to make texture? Let me roll this out a little bit. Now I'm doing just the opposite of what I told you. Now I'm smoothing it out. Pushing that back a little bit. And they're very wobbly with the polymer clay being soft like it is, but once the polymer clay cooks, they should be nice and solid. We'll find out because I have not done this before. It was just a thought that I had. Okay, now I'm going to take a piece of my bling can get the rubber band off of there. Okay, I'm going to cut it as long as that. I'll turn the pointy part up and roll it across there like that. Now actually I'm going to cut another piece, because if I take this piece off and then roll it over this again, I'm going to flatten out the little bumps that I've made that way. So I'm just going to take another piece and cut it. And I'm just going to kind of line them up a little bit so they're not overlapping each other. Like that. And then roll that one around. Well, that gave it some texture. I'm not sure if that's as much texture as I want. I think I would want more texture than that. But, all right, let's try putting some skewers on here. Let's see, if I did it this way, I'm just going to kind of spread these out a bit. Nothing specific, nothing perfect. And then I'm going to try doing this. Kind of go every which way. And that goes ahead, that puts some lines in it. That feels much more textury than the little, I thought that these would make a much more texture that you could feel. But so there we go. I just put some texture in it, and if you have anything that's really cool, you can roll it over that and make a texture. I'm looking at what I have here and I really don't see anything else, so I think I am going to just go with this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this in the oven and bake it, and then I'll be able to take it back out and paint it. So also what I'm going to do is, so that this doesn't, because it's heavy and it wants to fall down, when I put it on my pan, I'm going to bake it on parchment. And I'm going to cut a couple of strips off this parchment. No specific width, it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we're just going to use that to fold up. I'm just going to fold it up until it's thick enough to hold this up so that it doesn't fall down. And then what I'll do is I'll look at it from the edge when I set it on my pan and make sure that it looks like it's straight. Make sure it doesn't look now like it's pointing up too far. Because when the polymer clay gets warm, it will dip a little bit. So I'm going to put that under there like that to hold those where I think they need to be. Because I want them to be out pretty straight. They'll work either way. But I think that maybe I'll just take those out for a second. I'm going to put a few more grooves in here because I've kind of got rid of them a little bit. So I'm making these just a little bit deeper. I think that's probably pretty good. Maybe give it a little, not texture for grabbing, but just a little texture for a look. Kind of mix it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead, put this in the oven to bake for 30 minutes because of how thick it is. Then I'll take it out and let it completely cool and see if it looks like it's thick enough. Or I mean, see if it feels like it's solid enough. And then I will come back and show you how it works, and we'll decorate it up a little bit or paint it up a little bit. So I will be back in just a few minutes. Okay, I'm back and I have it all baked, and it worked really well. It seems nice and solid. It's not exactly straight, but it'll still work just fine. And I thought before I paint it, I would show you how it works. So I have a straight strip here, and so I'll just, and what you do is you just, and let me show you what I do with the extras. Here they are. Before I put it together, what I should have done was just opened them up a little bit because they're really quite tight. And so to get your paper in there, it's really tight and you have to pull it back. So what I usually do before I use them, and I never thought about doing this before I actually put it in my clay, usually what I do is I just kind of separate the two pieces and give it just a little bit of a pull. And it leaves a little gap. That's actually maybe more of a gap than I want. But then when I use them, I put my paper in there and hold it together and start wrapping. And then that also keeps it from getting too tight. And I didn't do that on those, so when I went to separate this one a little bit, it gave me a little bit of a crack in my clay. So if you forget to do that before, just give it a little bit of an open. Make sure that you hold both sides of your cotter key on the polymer clay to hold that tight. And then just go in there and give it just a little bit of a pull so that you don't crack your polymer clay. And it doesn't have to be much. So that was just a little bit of a pull, and my paper will still fit in there just fine. So in the way that they work is you just like any other bead roller, you just put it, but see, it's so nice with this handle. You know, it's a nice size handle. It's got some grip to it. And so it's just so much nicer than trying to deal with something like our skewers were so little, they're so skinny that, let me grab some glue if I can find some glue. Here we go. That this just is easier. Your hands won't get so tired, especially if you're doing, you know, quite a few of them. So just roll that around there. Now this is the large end. So, and then you just put your finger along the metal and just pull that off of there. You can also, because you've got just a little bit of a gap in there, kind of squeeze it together just a little bit to get it to let go. And I wrapped it too tight. The one thing, no matter how you're rolling your beads, you need to make sure that you don't wrap them too tight. It is stuck between the two levels, and that shouldn't happen. So that kind of pulled out my center paper, and all I'm going to do is just snip that off. So, and then I'll just take a skewer and open that hole up. So there we go. There's the size hole for there. The skewer fits in there really easily with extra room. And so then I'll show you the next one. Another straight piece here. Put that one in there. And there we go. So now I didn't pull it tight against to make that squish back together. The other one I just pulled too tight. We'll do another one triangle shaped so that I can show you how it works and make sure that it works well. Okay, and then we're just going to slide that off. Now when you use the cotter keys, because it has the piece in the center, it's going to be just like any other bead roller. It's going to have a line of paper right in the middle of your hole. There, that wasn't stuck down very good. So see, that slid off really easily. And I don't know if you can see that little piece of paper right there. And so then you just stick a skewer in there or something. You don't even really have to. And there's that one. Now this one, the skewer fits in there, but it fits fairly tight. So those are the difference in your size holes. It's not a huge difference, but there is still a difference in the size hole, and sometimes that matters when you're making a project. Okay, let's do the bigger one again. And we'll do a triangle shaped one on here. And now this time I'm not going to pull it really tight to pinch that together. And actually, if you roll the beads towards yourself, you can see where they're going better than rolling away from you like this. Let's just put some glue on there. Finish rolling that. Don't forget, when you roll your bead, get your points really well, and then any extra glue that comes out, just spread that out on your bead like that. And see, that slides off really nicely. And then there is that little, it's kind of hard to see, but that little piece of paper there. So if you need to, you can just stick your skewer in there and just push that over to the edge. So that's how they work. We'll just make a quick triangle shaped one on the small side. But it's just nice because you just slide your paper in there, it grabs a hold of it, you just roll it, you've got all this room to grab a hold of the roller. And so I really do find that this is much easier. I tend to use much shorter bead rollers, and after a while my hands get very kind of sore. Just roll that glue around there. Wipe my finger off. Slide that off so easy. And then if you want to get that other little piece out of the way, just give it a push. And there we go. So there's 4 really quick beads. And actually those were a lot quicker than I usually make them. This does make it a lot faster and easier to roll. So now we'll just decorate it up. But you know how to make it. So I grabbed out a couple of different colors of paint. I grabbed out a Kiwi and Laguna. And so I'm just going to slap some paint on it. And then I also grabbed out our glitter paint that I thought in the kind of gold color. And I thought that I would just kind of just put a little bit of that on here. So, but yeah, this is just a really easy way to do this. And you can just use the cotter keys. You don't have to make a handle to roll your beads. I do have another tutorial on how to make a bead roller out of a skewer. But the thing with that one is I like those and they work very well. They have the same concept. You split a skewer and use it just like this. And the only thing with that is that the skewer is so small. And if you have dexterity problems, this is a whole lot nicer because of how large the handle is. And I think if I do this, and then I think I'm going to try and highlight it a little bit with the turquoise color. This is I love this color, green. Green is one of my favorite colors. I like khaki green. I love this bright green. I'm not a big one for Kelly green or grass green. I like more the darker ones and the lighter ones. But there we go. The polymer clay paints up really nicely. Oh, and I don't think I'm going to lose that with how bright that is. Get that off there. I've got a great big lump of paint right there. And then I think I'll just maybe dry brush this a little bit, even though the green should be dry before I dry brush. And maybe I'll just let the colors mix a little bit. And then highlight it with the gold. Or maybe even black in the little circles. That would, I think, would be cool. Yeah, I think black really. And I don't want to cover it with the turquoise. I want both colors to be there. So I'm just kind of put some here, put some there. There. Okay, I'm going to call that good for a second, dry this off, and then I'll come back and I'm going to antique it with some black or some maybe brown. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I dried it with my heat gun, and then I just have a drop of brown paint, and I'm going to put just a little bit of water in with it so that I can just hopefully antique those the little holes that I put in here with the bling. So I'm just going to brush this on and then wipe it off. I have a wet paper towel, and actually I don't think that I had enough paint in here compared to the amount of water that I have, but we'll see. I didn't want the brown to be super dark, but I did want it to catch in those holes and stay there. Alright, and then you can let that dry a little bit, or just lightly wipe off the outside edges. And there we go. And I'm happy with that. I like the way it got into the ridges and it got into the holes. I might put a little bit of gold, of our gold glimmer paint on there, but I'm going to let it dry good first and then maybe just touch it in a few spots, but I'm not really sure about that. So that is our homemade bead roller with a different size on each end. Really nice size to grab, and it very fast and easily makes really pretty paper beads. I'm really happy with the way that they turned out. So, and I'm going to use this as a drop paper later, so I just spread out the extra paint that I had on there. But yeah, so I hope that you enjoyed that. I'm going to really quick get together what we need for next week, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm back to finish up. This is our bead roller. I did put a little bit of my brown glitter glue on here that we made earlier this year. Now my brown was pretty well dried up. Let me just show you. It's pretty dried up. I put a little bit of water in it, and I was able to kind of get some out of it. Some of the others, this is the one I was going to use, and this one is still very liquid. So I don't know if I didn't have the top on that one enough, or it was just the amount of glue I put in it, or what. But I just kind of wanted to show you that. That's why I don't make large amounts, because if they do dry up and it costs you 50 cents to make it, it's not that big of a deal, or 20 cents or whatever it costs you. But if you make a whole bunch and then you don't use it and it dries up, then, you know, it's just a waste of money, and it's kind of upsetting. So, but what we're going to need for next week is we are going to need a 2-pack of the glue from the Dollar Tree. If you can only get one will be enough, you know, but mine still has the 2 packs. So one time they didn't have them for a little while, but then they got them back and they've had them ever since. So a 2-pack of the white school glue, and one of these burlap ribbons. This is a little smaller than normal because I've already taken a piece off to use it, you know, for my sample. But we'll need one of these burlap ribbons, and then if you have a Walmart that does have a fabric department, this is a piece of regular burlap, and you can get them in different colors. I got mine in cream, and it was $4 a yard. So I told them I wanted 1/4. Oh no, it was $3 a yard. So I got 1/3 of a yard. So it cost me 99 cents. And so you can get 1/3 of a yard from the Walmart store or from Joann's or something, but just get $1 worth. You don't need a whole ton. And if you can't get a piece of this, then get 2 of these burlap ribbons in 2 different colors, maybe, so that you'll have different colors. So we will either need 2 burlap ribbons or 1 burlap ribbon and $1 piece of burlap. And a 2-pack of white school glue. So that will be $3, and we had $17.50 in our bank, and we spent $3, so that leaves us with 2, so we have $19.50 in our bank. And I think that I am going to, just to kind of let you know, in the next few weeks I'm going to do another jelly plate, but it's going to be mini jelly plates because I had a request for that, and I think that they're really fun to use. So I think we are going to do that again, even though it's a little bit expensive. So that's up to you if you want to, when I give you those projects for that list, you know, to think about if you really want to do that or not. So, but I hope that you enjoyed the bead roller, and like I said, it didn't turn out exactly straight, but it's pretty straight. It's a little bit off on one of them, but I really love the way that it works. I've never made a handle for them before, and I just love being able to grab a hold of it and turn it with this nice, you know, it's not big, it's about as big as my finger maybe, but it's just a nice size handle to twist, and it works really well. And we made those 4 beads in just nothing flat, so to me it does work faster than using something that's smaller to twist. So thank you very much for joining in today. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.